This is a letter to the Soviets by Gatewood Galbraith, page 171. The last free man in America meets the synthetic subversion. Greetings. The great events of change sweeping over your political lives and geographical boundaries offer an exceptional opportunity for you to replace the centralized totalitarian government you have overthrown with a system that enacts safeguards for your individual and personal sovereignty far beyond that which exists in the U.S. today. The breakup of the centralized federal power base opens up the possibility that local jurisdictions will fill the role of government in such ways that humaneness, individuality, and liberty are the result of a new accessibility, accountability, and proximity. So the Soviet Union just collapsed, and they broke up into a bunch of different little states, right? You had Russia, and then you had a lot of new countries that were formed. And this is written in the 90s. So this just happened. The collapse of the Soviet Union just happened. However, the seeming defeat of the old lines of power, the totalitarian regime which put itself first, the state second, and the people wherever they fell, is no guarantee of the attainment of freedom. There lurks on the horizon a presence just as stultifying to the individual, just as demeaning to the human potential, and just as likely to use the power of the state to force compliance with their own personalized agenda. This force carries the flag of the New World Order, and it resides in the minds and the corporate plans of the Western world's petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military-industrial complex. So, for Gatewood, the New World Order was corporate international bankers taking over the world. The Confessions of the Economic Hitman says that's how empire manifests itself today. It's not military domination, though sometimes it is. But mostly it's to get a foothold and then have them become super, corporate, just like America is becoming. And that's what Gatewood Galbraith meant by the synthetic subversion. He says, why would you want to sell out your dignity and your honor and, your freedom just to have a bunch of synthetic products, just to have a bunch of, goods? So let's keep on going. Gatewood also defended gay people. On page 169, he addressed to all, the Christian, the gay, the farmer, the union member. He's pro-labor. These are liberal views, right? Being pro-labor, being pro-union, pro-working class, pro-feminism, pro-black, the poor, the handicapped, the imprisoned, the elderly. These are all the people that Gatewood represented. He represented an entire spectrum of people. So let's carry on. And while its dominance may result in the presence of synthetic consumer goods on your shelves, to the former Soviet Union, that dominance will also extend to your private lives and lifestyles, just as surely and completely as the now deposed Politburo once dominated your lives. This New World Order also follows the maxim, in order to have a controlled economy, it is vitally necessary to have a controlled population. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The United States today does not represent any way a free market economy, nor is it the bastion of individual freedom and self-determination that our forefathers fought and died for. Over the past 100 years, our basic form of government has been bastardized by the petrochemical and pharmaceutical interests, who have seized the reins of power by buying Congress and the White House. They formally staged their coup in the 1930s by the passage of the New Deal legislation, whereby government and business worked out a new relationship between themselves, which involved usurping great power and policy prerogatives from local and state governments and the individual. They have used this power to promote and protect certain industries from competition. Unfortunately, in the formation of the authoritarian New Deal, the people were left out of the negotiation process. By the passage of this legislation, the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution was given preeminence over the worth of human beings individually and collectively. Farmers could be told what to grow on the pretext that their crop, no matter how small, affected interstate commerce, which could not even be true. You could raise a bunch of tomatoes and a bunch of corn and sell it to your neighbors. No interstate commerce. The corporate bottom line of the DuPonts and the Rockefellers was then, as it is now, the supreme measure of America. That's our moral compass. is the Dow Jones. With their profit motives supplanting our human dignity, privacy, and potential, our present system of government checks and balances seem unable to correct the situation because the two major parties supposedly competing to represent the best interests of the people have vigorously abandoned that principle and are continuously in common chasing personal wealth from and influence with the oil, chemical, and pharmaceutical barons. The labels of Democrats or Republican are merged at the feeding trough. Neither seems able to distinguish itself from the other through policies of compassion, fulfilling true human needs, and the rights of personal sovereignty. Their policies and their actions always and ultimately serve the large corporations and are doing great harm to the vast majority of people. The powers that view the land and its produce as adversarial, to be exploited or else destroyed, eliminated as competition, removed as a means of production of wealth. They will offer you large doses of chemicals, free or on credit, just like the heroin pusher. These pushers' drugs are synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides in the agricultural section, and synthetic drugs, fibers, fuels, and foods in the marketplace. They will seek to remove the farmer from the competition with their synthetic monopolies, and they will stop at nothing to do so until the jailing of large segments of the population who resist by insisting on procuring their medicine, fiber, and food from the natural farming cycle. The poisoning of America's water wells from chemical runoff shows the results of the USA's habitual abuse and dependence on toxic chemicals. Please heed this warning. These synthetic monopolies have already taken control of our form of government, and we now have more prisoners per capita than any other country in the world. You cannot have a controlled economy unless you have a controlled population. And there is no doubt that the United States today has the most controlled economy on the planet. You can bet that this new world order envisions the same policies and controls being implemented in your societies as you move through change and towards economic revitalization. You do so, in fact, stand at a pivotal time in global affairs as you prepare to negotiate a new deal in your country between the government and business interests, between within and without your borders. Do not let these negotiations take place without having the people represented in the highest capacity as to their rights and privacies, and do not fail to protect the earth and its produce for access by the public. Do not let the new governments outlaw the growth and consumption of hemp or any other natural product by your people. No truly free society makes outlaws of their farmers, and you folks have the opportunity to effect a revolution in the government's policy of police and private behavior. Don't blow it just for a few synthetic trinkets in shiny packages. So that's actually a very poignant criticism of the Soviet Union and also America. He's saying that America should have gone with the free market, capitalistic structure, and not let the corporations just take over. Make sure the people have a seat at the table. He was also against mountaintop removal. He was for vouchers that he would have made with several billion-dollar revenue plans that he had, and he had several of them. He wanted to create a big lake in the middle of Kentucky. But Gatewood was against mountaintop removal. He wanted to give $5,000 to every student in the state of Kentucky, so to spend at any college of their choice or vocation, to work on their trades or to work on, the classics or, your sort of W.E.B. Du Bois education. And so, Gatewood had a lot of liberal viewpoints, and he ran as a Democrat. He ran as a Democrat several times before starting to run as an independent. And his response was, there's perennial problems in Kentucky. And that's absolutely true. There's been perennial problems in Kentucky from the very beginning. So, I like doing these little fireside chats. I don't know if anyone's going to start listening, but I do believe that I have an important message that I want to speak about the issues. I want to see Kentucky advance and progress and move forward. And Gatewood Galbraith represents many of the ideas that I believe in. And the more I look at Gatewood, because I had a discussion about whether he was a conservative or a liberal. Now, I believe conservative wants to keep everything the same, and the liberal wants to see things change. And under that definition, Gatewood wants to see things change. He wanted to see change. And so he would have been a liberal. But I don't know if he would have called himself a liberal, because, you know, that's like a cuss word, right? That was like a cuss word ever since Rush Limbaugh came up on the scene, right? And the liberals want to do this. The liberals want to free the slaves and institute Social Security. The liberals, right? The liberals want gay people to be married, black people to vote. Look at these liberals. That's you know, those are good policies. Those are, you know, things that lots of old and disabled people like. So, anyways, liberal and conservative has been fighting throughout history the whole time. Some people say, hey, let's keep this the same. Other people say, no, let's change it. Let's keep it the same. No, let's change it. Let's keep it the same. No, let's change it. Okay, that conversation's always going to be had, right? Keep the things that are working, change the things that are not. And then, you know, when you change the things that are not, you change it into something that will work, right? And if it doesn't work, you retool and then you change that. And in fact, because we're always growing and there's always, you know, something new happen every day, isn't change like inevitable? Isn't it you will grow older and you will get, you know, change is just going to happen. More people are going to, you know, people are going to die, people are going to be born, and people are going to live their lives, you know. Just getting up and turning your car on and using energy, it's change. You know, there is change that is happening. So anyways, that's a little bit about Gatewood. So I don't know. I do need to work on actually just getting meeting face to face. But I like these videos, and I think that I can get, you know, a large swath of the population. We have the internet. This is the internet generation. Fred Tuttle, he didn't campaign, like go around shaking everybody's hands. He just wanted the media to come to him, and then people would learn what it is that he believes in. What are his ideas for what a better society would be? And let the media tell the people, you know, what his ideas for change would be. But, you know, we don't have a media that actually informs. And anyways, so yeah, so Gatewood Galbraith is the man. Gatewood Galbraith rocks. I was reading this article here, and it was saying how we're expanding our empire militarily. You know, we're still in war. How long are we going to be in war against an invisible enemy? You know, terrorism, just an idea. We're going to go to war with an idea. And isn't war like terror, but on a larger scale? So we're just going to show terrorism is wrong by having even greater terrorism. So the spending on empire and on the military industry complex, just like Dwight D. Eisenhower said, for every dollar that you spend on, you know, nuclear weapons and bombs is a dollar that is taken out of the education, out of the schools, out of the, you know, the food source for the people and for children. And so when you have an empire and you have to spend so much money on this, and you're seeing America is struggling right now. We had that big economic collapse about, you know, if the dollar would have dropped, we would have gone to the bottom of the pile. This is a house of cards we're living on. And 2008 about, you know, destroyed the world's economy. And we don't have the money to be spending, you know, for military wars of empire and conquest and domination. Meanwhile, we have the domestic policy of our own economics here in this country that we need to focus on. So I liked reading these few paragraphs. So I'm just going to read these few paragraphs, and then I'm gonna cut it off. Then, okay. So, anyways, and then I want to talk more about the lieutenant governor position, the people running, what they stand for, what is expected out of a lieutenant governor, and how to best do that job. So we have why have we allowed our system of education, especially in the areas of science and math, to decline to such a degree? Why do our students finish college weighed down with such monumental debt? Why is our manufacturing sector withering, with China, not a real friend or ally, taking over the production of the largest proportion of our products? How very dangerous is that? How much longer will we let our national infrastructure continue to deteriorate? In this article, Senator Bernie Sanders warns that our roads and bridges are in great disrepair. I-75 just collapsed. That we have significant deficiencies with our dams and waterways, our drinking water and wastewater systems, broadband, the electrical grid, and other key elements of this infrastructure. China and Japan have lightning-fast bullet Lightning fast bullets trains. America has the old, worn out, obsolete Amtrak railroad system. China and Japan have lightning fast bullets trains. This democracy and a government of, by, and for the people is bleeding profusely on life support, struggling to survive as corporate America now has clearly taken control of this government and dictates its policies and directions. The Constitution remains under siege by those in the Supreme Court, the Congress, and the White House who feel it stands in the way of advancing their personal objectives. Beginning in the 1990s and continuing through the Bush-Cheney administration, what once was the premier manufacturing system in the world, quite often referred to as the heart of America, has been under attack by profit-crazed corporatists. They conducted with no opposition from the government what we might call a giant auction or estate sale by which this nation's most valuable assets, the important functions of its factories and workforce, were sold off to China, Bangladesh, and overseas nations at bargain basement prices. In effect, selling out the American people. We are losing our industrial base. We do have some major issues that we need to work on. And the weird thing, I just read an article about Gatewood Galbraith, and now he is being celebrated. When Gatewood Galbraith was running in Kentucky, he would only get a few percentage of the votes, and he was mocked extensively by the media, by people who thought they knew best. And if there are some issues that I think Gatewood is conservative on. So he could have been very well moderate. He could have been very much center of the road. And yet he was mocked constantly. He was mocked and laughed at. And now hemp is legalized, and now we're celebrating Gatewood Galbraith. Even though he, even though he never won governor and never even came close to winning the governorship, he has dictated what it is the people of Kentucky talk about. He's been fighting the good fight for many decades. And we need to talk about the issues that he talked about. We need to point out, we do need freedom. And it does increase our freedom when we have education and health care taken care of. It does increase our freedom to have government-owned health care on the market, or government-owned gas stations like in Somerset. Somerset's buying gas stations to force the gas stations to lower their rates, and we would save more money by the government owning the gas station and competing, being one player on the scene. Because a free market, you're allowed to be a player on the scene. So by them being on the scene, it lowers the rates. It's good for the customers, and it's good for the people. So government, all cities should buy a gas station. Boone County owns golf courses. So that's just for the elite, right? That's just for backdoor business deals. But they have golf courses. I don't know how cheap their rates are if they, keep their golf courses up very well, but I would assume they probably have nice golf courses. And then Corinth owns fiber optic, high-speed broadband internet. And I think these are all good ideas. And also the guaranteed minimum income. Guaranteed minimum income cures poverty, and it solves bureaucratic waste. It gets rid of the bureaucratic waste and all the sort of extras that people don't need. So guaranteed minimum income, there's lots of good ideas, and I hope we keep on talking about all the good ideas, because I think GMI, the guaranteed minimum income, is agreed on by Milton Friedman and Martin Luther King. So that's a conservative and that's a liberal, and they both agree that a guaranteed minimum income where everybody gets a $10,000 check, and that cures poverty, and you don't have to have all the different organizations given this type of subsidies or this sort of assistance here and there. Everybody gets $10,000. It's extra money in people's pockets, in middle class and the rich. Go buy a boat, but it also guarantees that poor people will continue to live, and it's efficient and it's a good idea. So that's one of my good ideas, and I'm gonna come back talking about some lieutenant governor stuff. There are actual duties, but the duties of lieutenant governor is more about sitting on meetings, and what Jeff Young has told me he would want me to push for his legislation, so to get his legislation passed. That would be what he would expect out of me for lieutenant governor. And so, I can do that. I could sit at a meeting and I could say, hey, let's pass this legislation. Don't pass that legislation. I can do that. And here are the reasons why, you know. And okay. Good morning. Good morning, Kentucky. Good Thursday morning. It's January 1st, 2015.